emotions. So I had to learn how to deal with things emotionally without turning to using or drinking or whatever. People don't know how to have relationships. My relationships were built off of my smoking buddies or my drinking buddies or my party buddies. And so building relationships in the kingdom was hard for me. You know, people would think, oh, you're so outgoing and you're so this and you're rapping, you're this. But it's challenging for me sometimes to build relationships with people. And that affects my relationship with God as well. You have to expect some mental slowness. You think you're putting drugs and alcohol in your body, they affect the brain cells and the central nervous system. You know, I tell people all the time, look, I got 2 brain cells left. And they are overloaded all the time with school and with work. So I forget a lot of stuff. You know, you study the Bible, you're discipling someone, you don't know if that person might have had some drug or alcohol abuse and they're just not getting it. You know, and you're discipling them like, well, why are you not getting this? Why are you not, you know, growing? And people hit glass ceilings and don't know why. And so people don't have financial issues. Some people have bad credit because they have just been, you know, out there buying drugs and not paying their bills. Some people never learn how to balance a checkbook or open a checking account. You know, I didn't learn those things until I became a disciple because no one was there to teach me. You have court fees for DUIs and all of these things. And so CR is not a ministry just to help people stop using. CR is a ministry to help people to survive, not just survive, but thrive in their lives. To help people repair issues in their lives that usage did so much damage to. You know, to grow to a different level in their relationship with God. We have seen families repaired, where there was divorce, where children were taken away from their parents. We have seen so many miracles in CR. That's why I stay there, because of the miracles before your very eyes. And so I'm not telling you that if you don't come to CR, you won't stay sober and make it to heaven. I'm just saying that what if this is God's way of helping you get there? Thank you.
Amen. Please open your Bibles to Daniel chapter 1. So I have been studying out nutrition for the last year, since actually about November. It's been a challenge. I don't know if anybody in here likes to eat, but you know, most of us really come from a culture that loves to eat. You know, sometimes we use that even as an excuse. Well, I'm from the South, I love to eat. Well, I'm from California, I love to eat too. It ain't no different. We like to eat around here. And let's start off with this passage. In Daniel chapter 1 and verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord delivered Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, along with some of the articles from the temple of God. These he carried off to the temple of his God in Babylonia and put in the treasure house of his God. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, chief of the court officials, to bring in some of the Israelites from the royal family and the nobility, young men without physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well-informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. You want to talk about a stud? That's it right there, right? He was to teach them the language and literature of the Babylonians. The king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table. They were to be trained for 3 years, and after that they were to enter the king's service. Among these were some from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The chief official gave them new names. To Daniel, the name Belteshazzar; to Hananiah, Shadrach; to Mishael, Meshach; and to Azariah, Abednego. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine, and he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. Now God had caused the official to show favor and sympathy to Daniel, but the official told Daniel, I am afraid of my lord the king, who has assigned your food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other young men your age? The king will have my head because of you. And in just a moment, I'm about to get into something you're going to think just like these people. Why should I see you looking worse than all the other young men and women? In verse 11, Daniel then said to the guard whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. So he agreed, and he tested them for 10 days. Pay attention to this. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. You ever see that passage in the Bible? Yeah. You've seen it. You just didn't realize they were talking about health and nutrition right there. They have a deep and powerful message right here, and we're going to talk about that. He says in verse 15 again, at the end of those 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. Today in America, we eat royal food, don't we? Everything that they ate, we eat better, in fact, than these people probably ate. You can get a steak any day of the week. You can have shrimp any day of the week. You can have wine any day of the week, and it don't cost you that much in order to be able to do it. She said, what? She doesn't have to enter into the service of the king for 3 years, does she? See, God has given us a clue that eating a plant-based diet is the most nutritious and will enhance your performance to an optimum level. If you want to improve your greatest potential, eating a plant-based diet is a way to fuel your body to achieve your goal. What am I talking about, right? Do you ever feel afraid to die because of a heart attack or cancer? Since I was a teenager, I've had an irregular heartbeat. And it beats, funny. If I don't exercise, it really beats funny. And it'll beat twice, skip a beat, and it'll come back. And every time it does that, I got to catch my breath. It's been there forever. And so most of the time, I don't know it. But I can tell you several times a week when I'm either stressed out, or if I have to take like a Claritin for allergies, or if I had a little bit too much coffee, I'm made very well of what's going on with my heart. So it constantly keeps me in the state of, I need to take care of my heart, right? And sometimes we don't realize, why does God give you certain things? Or why do things like this happen to you? And I believe, honestly, God has revealed to me that this is for this purpose here. There are people around us all the time that are having heart attacks, cancer. It almost feels like there's nothing we can do to prevent it, doesn't it? Like we're just kind of waiting for it to happen, or we're hoping that maybe it doesn't. There are so many people being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, hypertension, or what we common folks call high blood pressure, and different types of cancer. Common cancers are breast, prostate, large bowel, which include colon and rectal cancer. And I don't even know if you know this or not, but colon and rectal cancer is the number 3 killer of cancer out of all the cancers. And I got to bring us down a little bit right now. One of my brothers was just diagnosed. Tom, our brother, O'Brien, was just diagnosed with rectal cancer. He's got to go in on Monday to have a colonoscopy to see the extent of it. We need to be praying for that brother. So how do we deal with broken hearts, obesity, diabetes, cancer? What is the number 1 cause of death in women? What is it? Yell it out. Heart disease. If you're a woman, the number 1 thing that will kill most women in this country is heart disease. How about men? Heart disease. The number 1 killer of men and women in this country is heart disease. Earlier this year, I gave a speech on setting goals at midweek. I was able to have victory in all of them at that moment, except I couldn't get my weight down to 175 pounds. And some of you, may laugh, but I was at like 185 pounds. I couldn't lose that last 10 pounds. I didn't have time at work. I felt like I didn't have time at work to get that done, right? So then I decided to get some blood work done and check my cholesterol. It was 260. I got really scared because it has never been that high before. My cholesterol has always been high. I've seen it as high as 241 before, and I was a young man. I'm like, yeah, whatever, you don't pay that much attention to it. When I was a teenager, I had a doctor tell me, you better do something with this cholesterol or I'm going to put you on medication. I had no idea what he was talking about. I had no idea about what cholesterol was. And you know what? What he told me and what most of our experience today is, your doctor cares about you just about that much. Get it together, and you never hear from him again. Is that about right? Right? They tell you, hey, get it together, and you don't hear anything about it. It's not that they don't care. Part of it is, and most of it is the way that they get trained. They get about 1 or 2 nutrition classes in their entire medical training. The pharmaceutical companies, they're the ones that are winning out because most of their time learning about how to treat you is when you're jacked up and broken and they got a pill for you. So they got to learn how to prescribe medication. I got something much simpler than that. Since I felt like I couldn't exercise consistently, I decided to start at the root of the problem. I wanted to deal with what I was putting in my mouth. Essentially, it was the food that I was eating. Last November, I happened to come across a documentary called Forks Over Knives on Netflix. It was me coming, whether it was me coming across it or the Lord's blessing, I don't know, but you know which one obviously I eventually decided it was. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Everything made so much sense to me about why all of a sudden people are having so much health issues. Haven't you been curious as to what is causing all these medical problems around you? Aren't you curious? Why did that person get cancer? Why didn't this one get cancer? This person has diabetes. In the back of our minds, most of the time we do know some of those answers. It's what we're eating. We don't want to put down the cheeseburger, the soda, whatever it is. Why are so many people getting cancer? What is it in our environment that we are eating? Or what is in our environment and what are we eating that is working together maybe that's causing cancer? Forks Over Knives is a documentary made by several doctors that have decided to go against the status quo and treat illness with nutrition instead of with just pharmaceutical drugs. Their research has changed my life. Over the last year, I've read over 1,000 pages and watched many documentaries about health and nutrition, and mostly I've been experimenting with and following a whole foods plant-based diet. These books have impacted me the most. It was the China study. I'm telling you them so you can write them down because your doctor's not going to call you. And if you're young, you're 20, 25 years old, in 20 years, you're going to be facing these problems. But you don't have to. If you're 40 to 45, I'm telling you, most of us in here are already probably at a place where we're obese, have diabetes or pretty close to it, have high blood pressure or pretty close to it. Is that a right synopsis? Yeah. Right. So, the China study, they have an abridged version. It takes you about 30 minutes to read. I read the 400-page book. T. Colin Campbell, it's the most comprehensive study on nutrition ever conducted. There's nothing like it. It's very difficult, if it could ever be duplicated, to be done again. It's an extremely important study about health and nutrition. All right? Preventing and Reversing Heart Disease by Caldwell Esselstyn. Preventing and Reversing Heart Disease by Caldwell Esselstyn. This book is the one that resonated with me because I'm afraid like crazy to have a heart attack. John A. McDougall, MD, he just came out with a book called The Starch Solution, but he's been one of the pioneers promoting a plant-based diet as well. Both of these doctors, John McDougall as well as Caldwell Esselstyn, the Harvard Review said these are the only 2 doctors that have been known to reverse and prevent heart disease. They're able to actually get heart disease to reverse. You got, I don't know how many doctors in this country, but you only got 2 that care enough, that are doing their own research. Only 2 that are able to do this? What are they learning in school? It sounds like to me like they're wasting a lot of time because by the time it gets to the point where we need to go see them, they're putting us on the table, they're cutting us open, and they're having to take something out. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be that way. Here are some of the results that I've gotten over the last year. I've done my own research because I think it's important for you to take your health in your own hands. I've lost 20 pounds. I've done it without exercise. And I smashed my goal, and I did it without going hungry. I lost 20 pounds.